What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 3 tips for quarterbacks to improve their deep ball. So we're going to be talking about how you guys can get more distance, more arm strength on your deep ball, how you guys can be more accurate and consistent with those deep passes downfield, and how you guys can get the ball out on time to where those wide receivers don't outrun your arms. So I hope this video helps you guys out. We're going to be covering 3 specific examples. Now, also, fellas, if you're a quarterback and you want to improve your skills this offseason, we are coming out to 6 different states across the country for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camp. So the next stop on our camp tour, we've already been to 5 different states, is Columbus, Ohio. Then we're going to be coming out to Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, which was just added to our camp schedule this week, and then Los Angeles, California. So for quarterbacks, fellas, this is 2 days of training. It's kind of a retreat style thing where you guys get 8 hours of work total with us over the course of the weekend. So if you guys want to get some work in with us, work with myself and my staff of coaches, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get started with this video. So now, first things first, how you guys can get more power on the ball comes from your weight transfer, number 1. And today we're going to talk about where that weight transfer should come from and the timing of your throwing sequence to generate torque, right? So obviously Josh Allen's got a cannon. He's ripping this thing about 60, 70 yards downfield, probably more than that in this specific example. So where does all that power come from? It does not come from the arm. So many quarterbacks think that, young quarterbacks, I would say, I think when you get a little bit older, you understand this concept, that they think, oh, like the stronger my shoulder is, the stronger my rotator cuff is, the bigger I am, I guess you could say, I'm going to throw the ball harder. That's the exact opposite. All of your power is going to come from your hips, your core, and your leg. NFL quarterbacks should not be able to throw on a weekly basis almost 100 passes every single day if they threw with solely their arm. So you have to get used to that concept that my body makes the throw, and that's where my power comes from. So they call it weight transfer. So when you guys are in the pocket, no matter where you're at, you're going to have about 65 to 70% of your weight on this back leg. Now, the goal of being on this back leg is to obviously transfer that weight to the front leg. So when you shift that weight to the front leg, that's what creates your front stride. It's not a push off of the back foot. That's something that I used to teach. I used to teach that, hey, you want to push off the arch of the foot. But as the game constantly evolves, you learn more about the timing of throwing sequences, getting your hips to rotate through. I started seeing a lot more results in my quarterbacks when they started transferring off of their back quad. So instead of thinking I'm going to push off of my foot, you want to take that weight that you have on your back leg and you want to shift it through from your quad, because that shift will help you get the front foot down faster. A lot of guys that push off of this back foot, like almost like a pitcher in baseball, they will push, but that stride will take forever to get down. And when you have that really long stride, that prevents your hips from rotating through. Because like we said, the power is going to come from your hips and your weight transfer. So when you have that mindset of, hey, I'm going to transfer my weight and I'm going to shift it through, then the front foot can come down. Naturally, what's going to happen is your hips are going to rotate through. And when your hips rotate through, that is where your power comes from. When you could get your back hip to shoot through before the football does, that's where all your power and all that weight transfer and all that control on the ball is going to start from. So now, how do you translate this to arm strength, right? Because a lot of people do that, but they don't have any power on the ball. And it's called hip and shoulder dissociation. So what does that exactly mean? That means your hips and your stride are shooting forward as your shoulders are going back. It is very similar to like a baseball player hitting a baseball. When you see a baseball player hit a baseball, what does he do with his shoulders and the bat? He keeps them loaded as he takes his front stride, and he pivots off the back foot, and then the bat swings through, right? It's very similar to a golfer. What does a golfer do? A golfer raises the club up, and his hip drive, that pivot off the back leg, aka the weight transfer, brings the club through. Same thing when throwing a football, but it's just a football now instead of a bat or a club. So when your front foot gets down, you want to have that front side closed. And that front foot gets down from the weight transfer. So you transferring weight to create the front stride gets your hips to go. But if at the same time you could rotate back with your shoulders, keep your front shoulder closed, there is a lot of torque and a lot of velocity in that motion. It's a ton of power coming off of this thing because it's pretty much like a slingshot. It's like a bow and arrow. Like this is pulling the arrow back, and your hips and that rotation is letting go of the arrow to shoot it through. That's where you see quarterbacks have so much arm speed, so much velocity, and this is what helps with a deep ball throw. You guys have to have this on a deep ball throw. So many quarterbacks, what they'll do is they'll take that front stride, but that front stride will get down, but their front shoulder won't close. It will open up. And when your shoulder opens up the same time your hips are opening up, what happens is your body swings this way, and guess what happens to your arm? because your body's on a midline. Your arm's going to fly outside of your frame, and you physically can't get air on the ball, and you can't get power on the ball. So we have to think of it. Shoulder closes as the stride gets down, and the stride gets down because of that weight transfer. That's the first key to having that better deep ball and more arm strength. So let's play this thing full speed. I know that's a lot of information, but trust me, fellas, that is one of the key things that you could get down. And you see how under control, Allen's throwing this thing 70 yards downfield, and his foot doesn't kick way up. He's not off balance, and it's because of that sequence, okay? So now, we're looking at the story from Justin Fields, so he's going to be throwing a fade route. This ball is a lot further than it actually seems when he lets go of this thing, but that ball lands probably around like the 10, and he's from the 50, so that's about a 40-yard throw, right? Probably not that much for him because, you know, he's got obviously a strong arm, but for a lot of guys, like, how do they throw this fade ball consistently? When you guys are in a game situation, it's very, very rare that you throw the ball more than 40 yards, especially if you're playing high school ball. So we want to be able to throw that ball consistently. So what a lot of quarterbacks, the mistake they make is their hitch that they take in the pocket is flawed. So what do I mean by that? So you see how Fields, when he does this, right, he takes your typical three-step drop, right? 1, 2, 3. But look when he hits his third step. Where is his weight at? We talked about this with Josh Allen. Where do you get power from your legs? From your quad, right? You got to be able to transfer the weight. But where is his weight at right now at the top of his drop? It's on the front foot. Right? So I call that like the bike kickstand. You ever seen like a bike kickstand when somebody puts their bike up? It's like one end is shorter than the other. All the weight looks like it's on one end. That's kind of how your feet get at the top of a drop. So the key to getting power and the key to being more consistent is being able to like almost rock yourself back when you take a hitch. So all of his weight is on the front foot. When he hitches up, you got to shift it back. You have to be here to here. So, and again, that seems simple. So many quarterbacks struggle with this. And this is why I can't stand 7-on-7 sometimes, because quarterbacks get in such bad habits of having all their weight forward because they don't take hitches. They'll just take a step, take the ball back from the tee, and they have all their weight forward. You got to shift your weight back, load that back leg, because that's how you can get that weight transfer, which will give you more power. But if you don't shift your weight back, you're not going to be able to get any power. So when you guys are here, so many quarterbacks will hitch up, but their weight stays shifted forward. It just make sure, fellas, you go from like 70 on the front foot to 70 on the back foot. Because now, since I have 70 on the back foot, what can I do? I can transfer it, and you see, weight transfer creates the front stride. That starts to get the hips to go through. The back hip is coming through before the ball, and then you see how he's under control. His leg is not kicking up, and look at the timing of his sequence. Front foot is down, and what is his shoulder doing? His shoulder is closed, front foot is down because of the weight transfer, and that's what gives him that nice coil on the ball. That's textbook three-step drop and hitch, throwing a fade route right here from Justin Fields. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Then we're going to look at how you guys can get more air on the ball and be more consistent as a quarterback. So he takes here, three-step hitch, make sure we get that weight back. And that goes for any route, fellas. That goes for a freaking 15-yard dagger, like a dig that you're throwing. When you hitch up on it, you have to shift your weight back to get in that position to transfer weight. If your weight's already transferred, you don't have any hip rotation, throwing this thing solely with your upper half. So now, how do you guys get more consistent? The amount of questions we get about being accurate on a deep ball shows that not a lot of quarterbacks do this, but your accuracy when you're throwing a deep post, a fade, it's all about how quick do I get the ball up and how much air do I put on the ball. Obviously, you don't want to throw like a sky ball where it's like as high as you can throw it because it's not going to go anywhere. You got to find that balance, but air is your best friend on a deep ball and getting the ball up quick. So let's play this thing full speeder from Trevor Lawrence. So he's taking a drop, 3 steps, same thing in a hitch, but I want you to see when he's throwing this thing and the amount of air that he puts on this thing to drop it right in the bucket, right? So that ball leaves the screen, right? It has a ton of air, and then it comes back into the screen because he knows that when you guys are dropping back, throwing a fade, it's not about throwing this thing on a frozen rope on a line and just placing it over the shoulder. It's about giving the wide receiver something he can run with, right? So many quarterbacks struggle with this. And if you don't have the strongest arm, and again, you're trying to work on your arm strength, maybe just get the ball up a little bit quicker. Because like in a real game, when you're throwing that fade route, usually what kind of coverage is it? It's man. So that wide receiver is probably got a guy like right here. He wants to keep his head down and he wants to get separation from that DB as quick as possible. So he's going to keep his head down, pump his arms. He's not looking back for the ball because he's trying to get open first. He just needs a good ball to be put on a spot that he can go run to. When you guys are throwing a fade ball, deep post, you're putting it to a spot. You just have to throw the right type of ball. So you see when Trevor Lawrence lets go of this thing, wide receiver's not looking, and you see he's taking a 3-step drop, right? 1, 2, 3, 1 hitch, and it's out. That is the key right there, fellas, because so many guys will take a 3-step drop, and this is where 7-on-7 kills guys, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and then they try to throw it, and they throw it late. They have to throw it on a line, and that's why you're not accurate. Because if you don't put air on it, how do you expect the receiver to fade with it? It's going to be over. If it's over his right shoulder, he's really going to have to adjust. You got to get it up early with air. Let him go chase it. Let him go run it down. So now, how do we do that? It's very easy for a quarterback coach to sit there and go, hey, put more air on the ball. It's like, how? How do I put more air on the ball? And it comes down to everything that we were talking about. When you take that hitch, you have to be loaded on the back leg so you can arc your front shoulder a tad. But the main thing is when you release that ball, you got to think of it like you're grabbing something out of the cookie jar. You're snapping that wrist at the very top like you're shooting a free throw. It's because when you release that thing high and you have the correct weight transfer, hip rotation, Lawrence kind of has a little wide base, which is why you see this lean out of there, and that's for another video, another time. But the main key is to get that air, you have to snap that wrist at the top. Take the same kind of 3-step, take the same kind of hitch we watched Justin Fields do, same kind of weight transfer we saw from Josh Allen, and then if you can snap that wrist at the top, that's what gives you that air. You'll have power on the ball, and when you could put air and power on the ball, getting it up early, that guy will have no choice but to go run that thing down. It's his job to get there. It's our job to give him a chance. Air is your best friend because if you miss with air, at least he's got a chance at a jump ball. You put that thing on a line and you miss, he has no chance. He has nothing. So you got to give that guy a chance. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Lawrence, flicking that wrist at the top, giving that wide receiver enough air to go chase that thing down. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out and train with us, we're traveling out to 6 different camps, or 6 different states, I should say, for 6 different camps this offseason: Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Los Angeles, California. So check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our camps. I'll see you guys next time.